Welcome into Mock Trial Masterclass, your guide to controlling the courtroom. I'm Luke, and I want you to be a mock trial master. And in this month's episode of the Mock Trial Masterclass Podcast, we're going to talk about how you can do just that. The Mock Trial Masterclass Podcast comes out on the first Friday of every month, and this month we have a really fun topic. Sometimes on the MTM podcast, we have a guest. This week, it is just me. It's a solo ride for me this month. But we've got a fun topic, and what we're going to be getting into is what it takes to win a national championship in mock trial. We're at that time of year where a lot of teams in high school and college are preparing for national tournaments. In college, if you've been lucky enough to make it to the national championship tournament for AMTA in Memphis in just a few weeks, congratulations to you and good luck to you. And if you're in high school, you're preparing for the National High School Mock Trial Competition in Little Rock, Arkansas right now. Congratulations to all of you state champions out there who are in the midst of preparing for nationals. And look, here's the deal. Whether you're listening to this right now and you are in the midst of preparing for nationals, whether you're listening to this right now and you've been to nationals before but you haven't gotten over the hump, or if you haven't gotten over the hump of getting to nationals in the first place, high school or college, right? And you're sitting there thinking to yourself, what is it going to take for me, for my program, for my team to get over the hump? That's what we're going to talk about in this episode. Because here's the deal. I have been around a lot of mock trial teams, some of whom were very good. I was fortunate enough to be one of the coaches on a team that won the national championship in 2019. So I've seen that end of things. I've been around that end of things. I've seen what works. But perhaps most importantly, for what we're going to talk about today, I've been around the opposite. I've been around teams that couldn't get over the hump. I've been on teams that just didn't really have what it takes to win a national championship. And so what I've been able to do as I sit back and think about the last several years of doing this activity is I can say, okay, what were the differences in the teams I was around, the teams I was a part of, that did get over that hump, that did win the ultimate prize, and the ones that didn't? What were the traits, the major things that separated those two sides of the coin? And after thinking about this for a while and looking back to my experience and saying, what are the differences? There's really four that I've come up with. And what these differences are is they're all character traits. It's not, the teams that were really good or the team that I won the national tournament with gave really good opening statements and the ones that didn't weren't very good at opening. That's not what this is at all. It's not, the teams that I won with, we were just really good with objections, and the ones that didn't win didn't know the rules of evidence very well. That's not it at all. Because the interesting thing is, I think back to my experiences and what I've done and what I have and have not been able to accomplish in my mock trial lifetime, is that I've been on teams that didn't win that were great at cross-examination, that were great at objections and opening statements and closing arguments and all of the things, all of the performance things, but yet they didn't win the ultimate prize and they really weren't that close. And when I look back and ask the question, well, why is that? It's because of these four character traits that I was hinting at a minute ago. These four character traits, not a skill, not a level of knowledge or expertise, though you do need knowledge and expertise, of course, to win a national title. I'm not standing here saying that you can win a national title if you're not good with objections or opening statements or anything else. But the difference, what gets a team over the hump between not in the running for the national title, not having a chance at winning a national championship, and being in that position, it's all about character. It's all about adopting 4 character traits. And so that's what we're going to spend the rest of our time on this month's episode of the Mock Trial Masterclass Podcast, going over those 4 character traits. Before we hop in to character trait number 1, I do want to let you know that my brand new book, Mock Trial Masterclass, is now available on Amazon. Guys, I am beyond excited to share this with you guys, because what this book is it's everything I've learned in my years of competing in and judging and coaching and everything related to mock trial crammed into 200 pages. And it's not a textbook. This is not a boring book full of big words that no one in their right mind would be able to understand. This is not boring. If you enjoy listening to this podcast, if you enjoy watching or listening to my shorter coaching episodes that come out once a week on my YouTube channel and podcast platforms for the Mock Trial Masterclass videos, if you enjoy those, you're going to enjoy this book because it's the same experience. We're still going to have fun. We're still going to tell stories. We're still going to laugh, and we're still going to learn. The difference is, because this is a book, I'm able to get deeper into things and really cover all the bases in a way that I can't in a 45-minute podcast or in a 10-minute coaching video once a week. So I'm so excited to be bringing this to you guys. And the entire last chapter of this book, chapter 10 of this book, is devoted to what we're going to be talking about today. So if you're listening to me talking about these character traits today and you think, man, I want to know more about those, or you're saying, okay, I've got those character traits. Now, what's the technical knowledge I need in terms of, like we were saying earlier, openings, closings, crosses? What's the technical knowledge I need to pair with that? This book is for you. This book is perfect for you and your team. It's going to take you and your team to the next level. And I've left a link in the description on YouTube and on podcast platforms, the show notes, where you can go to Amazon and buy this book. I'm thrilled to share it with you guys. I can't wait for you guys to read this book and take your performance to the next level and hear all about that. It's going to be awesome. All right, trait number 1 of 4 that separates national champion caliber teams from ones that aren't is competitors on national champion caliber teams, mock trial masters, right, are great teammates. Mock trial masters who compose teams capable of winning a national championship are great teammates. This means a couple of things, I think. First of all, a great teammate is someone who really invests in those around them on their team. A good teammate sees their other teammates as potential friends. When a good teammate goes to practice and is around his or her fellow team members, they don't see them as simply people who can help them achieve what they want to achieve. In other words, if I'm an attorney and I'm working with a witness, I don't just see that witness as someone who needs to be able to answer my questions to help me have a good performance. Right? That's important. But as a mock trial master, as a good teammate, I look at those around me as the people that they are, as the human beings that they are. I look at them as potential friends. And so that means that as a result of that, I invest in building relationships with the people around me on my team. Now, here's the deal. You're not going to be best friends with everyone on your team. I'm not sitting here right now telling you that you need to become best friends with everyone on your team. That's completely unrealistic because there are going to be certain personality types and styles that you're more likely to get along with and that you're more likely to develop good quality relationships with. So don't get me wrong on that. But you should still, as a good teammate, as a mock trial master, make every effort you can to be a good teammate. Again, we don't treat our teammates as producers, as people who are just answering questions or asking questions or giving speeches. We see them as people. We see them as potential friends. So you may be sitting there asking yourself, well, what in the world does that have to do with winning a national championship? Well, I think it's huge, and here's why. For a team to win, really at any team competition, whether we're talking about mock trial or a sport like football or soccer or basketball, right? You can't just have a group of talented people and expect it to work. In fact, before last year, I had spent the previous 4 years covering the NFL, the National Football League, as a journalist, as a reporter. And one thing that I saw clear as day during my time around the NFL is exactly what I'm talking about here. I saw plenty of talented teams with good players who are fast and strong and skilled at various things that didn't live up to their potential because the players didn't get along, because there was no chemistry involved at all. And from my experience in mock trial, guys, the same thing applies. I promise you. The same thing applies. Because if you've got a group of really, really talented students on your team who can give great speeches and who can give good cross-examinations and who know the rules of evidence, and you've got witnesses who develop strong and likable characters that are going to score well, you can have all of those things, but if you don't have team chemistry, if the individual parts of the team don't have relationships with each other enough so that they can work together well in the courtroom, on game day, at a tournament, it's all going to fall apart. You certainly might have some success. I'm not saying that talent alone isn't going to give you any success. It will, to an extent. But there's going to be a limit. Because again, we're not talking today about how to win a round. We're not talking about how to win your local regional competition. We're talking about how to win a national championship, which should be the goal of all of this, right? It's the ultimate prize. If you're not going for that ultimate prize, why else would you do this? And by the way, we're going to talk more about that attitude in just a little bit. If you want to win a national championship, not a round, not a little local tournament, if you want to win the big prize, you're not going to be able to do it if you are not a great teammate. And if those around you aren't great teammates. That level of chemistry, that level of relationship among team members is vital to having success at that level. And it all starts with you. It starts with the relationship aspect, right? See the people around you as people, as human beings that you can become friends with, not as producers, not as just, things that are asking questions or answering questions. It starts with that. And then I also think that everyone, if they want to be a mock trial master, should be a leader on their team. Now, it doesn't mean that you got to get on a table and give a rah-rah speech before a round. It doesn't mean that you've got to be a senior in college or a senior in high school. I believe firmly that you can be a leader in mock trial if you're a third-day rookie. The same way that you could if you were a senior who was the team captain. Here's how. Being a leader means consistently showing up to practice and only missing if you absolutely have to. It means when you're at practice, you get work done. You can have some fun, and we're going to talk more about that in a little bit, but you're on a mission. And so you're working hard, developing yourself, working with your teammates to improve them and to get on the same page with your part. You're working hard in practice if you're a leader, if you're a mock trial master. And so how do you know if you're being a good leader? How do you know if you're being a great teammate in that way? Ask yourself this question. If my level of effort was what everyone else on the team adopted, would we be in good shape? If the answer is yes, you're probably being a pretty good leader. If the answer is no, it's time to make some changes. It's time to make some changes, because if you can't answer yes to that question, that means that your level of effort and your level of leadership, of being a good teammate, is not where it needs to be. So, character trait number one among teams that win national titles, among mock trial masters, individuals who compose a team that is capable of winning a national title, is that they're great teammates. They develop relationships with those around them, and they're leaders by the example that they set and the work ethic that they put forward. Character trait number two that is absolutely vital to winning a national championship is that a team that wins a national championship is comprised of individual participants, individual mock trial masters who are committed to growing and improving in their skill set. One thing that I have sort of realized about how the world works in anything, whether we're talking about mock trial or anything else, is that you've really got two options when it comes to growth and self-improvement and learning. Option number one is that you do those things, right? You're constantly feeding yourself with knowledge. You're reading books. You're studying. You're improving yourself in whatever your career is or whatever it is you work with, right? You're growing. That's option number one. Option number two is you're shrinking. You're getting smaller. You're rolling down the hill. There's no in between. That's what I've found anyway, and I know there are a lot of experts and authors who would back me up in that. You're either growing or you're dying, I think. And so, I would tell you all that as a mock trial competitor, if you're not committed to getting better, if you're not committed to improving, then you're going to get worse, because the status quo is really not an option. And when you are committed to growth, when you are committed to improving yourself, you'll be amazed with what can happen. Because time and time again, I have seen a competitor come in. My experience is mostly, in terms of coaching, is mostly with high school. And time again, I will see a 14-year-old high school freshman come in, and I watch their initial tryout, and I think to myself, man, there's not really a whole lot to work with here, right? They're kind of quiet. They're not giving a very bold presentation. And then by the time they're a senior in high school, they are blowing me away with their performances. You would be surprised, I think a lot of you would, with what you're capable of if you commit to growth. Because here's the thing. I firmly believe that all of you who are listening to this right now have it within you to be a mock trial master. You have it within you to excel and perform with unbelievable levels of success at this activity. You all might not have the same starting point, but I firmly believe you all can get there. And that's where growth and improvement comes in. But notice the way I presented it, the way I introduced this topic a minute ago, is I said consistent, constant growth and improvement. Because the growth and improvement is not just a one-time thing. For example, you want to get better with the rules of evidence. You're not going to do that tomorrow or by sitting down after you're done listening to this podcast and reading through the rules and okay, you've got it now. That's not how it works. It takes consistent effort, consistent learning. One of my favorite public speakers in the world is an author and a pastor named Craig Groeschel. And Pastor Craig always says this when he's speaking to his church. He says, successful people do consistently what others do occasionally. I think that's hugely powerful, especially when we're sitting here talking about growth and improvement, because it comes down to your consistent effort. If over the course of your 2, 3, 4 years in high school or college mock trial, you were constantly committed to growth, incredible things are going to happen. I promise you. I have seen it happen over and over and over again. You would not believe the transformations that I have seen take place in mock trial. And you're capable of that. But it starts with you making the decision to constantly grow and improve yourself. How does that fit into the context of building a national championship team? Well, I think it's a pretty easy link, right? Because think about it. If you've got a team full of 8, 9, 10 guys and girls who are all committed at that level to improving themselves, the results are going to be pretty incredible, right? I mean, it would be hard to imagine a scenario where the results weren't incredible. And that's why this is so important to winning a national title. Now, I will say this. You listening to this podcast right now, the fact that either A, you sought out a mock trial podcast and stumbled upon me sitting here talking today, that shows me that you have a desire to improve and get better. If you're a subscriber to the Mock Trial Masterclass channels on YouTube or podcast platforms, and you've listened before either to the podcast or to the coaching episodes, and you're coming back for more, that tells me that you are absolutely committed to growth and improvement. So my guess is that most of you who are listening, if not all of you who are listening right now, are in pretty good shape with this one. So, since you've already made that decision of, I'm going to commit myself to growth, I'm going to commit myself to improvement, let me share with you a few quick ways to go about doing that. One is what you're doing right now. The whole reason that this channel, that this podcast, that the coaching episodes, that my book exists, the whole reason any of this is here on the Mock Trial Masterclass platform is so that you have an avenue to grow and improve. You can listen to the coaching videos to improve yourself. You can read the book to take a deeper dive into mock trial and learn strategies that work and strategies that national champions use. Right, all of this is for that. So anything that I've got on the YouTube channel, on the podcasts, my book, great places for you to go. And I don't say that to pat myself on the back. I say that because that's the whole reason it exists. That's the whole reason I'm doing all of this, is to give you all a place where you can go to grow. So that's the first thing you can do. Another thing you can do that I really like is to watch good mock trial rounds. Go to YouTube. If you want to, search Tennessee. Our state in Tennessee tends to put on a good high school championship every year. Search Tennessee High School Mock Trial, and you'll get some really good rounds to pop up. There's actually one up there that has me in it, if you're lucky enough or unlucky enough, depending on what you think, to stumble upon that one. But there's plenty of other ones, too, that I could recommend. If you want recommendations for a good round to watch, shoot me an email, mocktrialmasterclass@gmail.com. I would be happy to recommend some good rounds for you to watch. But watching good mock trial happen is a great way to get better, because you're watching competitors that are having success, that are doing this at a high level, and you're saying, okay, what's working for them? What can I take from their performance and apply it to my own? So there's 2 ways right there that you can improve and get better. And I talk about even more ways like I mentioned earlier, in Chapter 10 of my new book, Mock Trial Masterclass. So again, go pick up the book. Link in the description on YouTube and the show notes on podcast platforms for you to do that. Take an even deeper dive into what it looks like to constantly grow and improve. Okay, trait number 1, be a great teammate. Trait number 2, constantly grow and improve. Trait number 3 that mock trial national champions have that the rest of the bunch doesn't is that national champions have a whole lot of fun. Now, these first 2, we've talked a lot about hard work. We talked about, as a good teammate, does your level of effort set the standard it needs to for the rest of the team? We talked about getting work done during practice and focusing. We talked about committing to growth and improvement and putting our head down and putting in the work. Well, all that is very important, of course, or we wouldn't have been talking about it for the last half hour. But if you don't couple the hard work with having fun, you will not win. Let me tell you a story to explain why. On the national championship team that I had the ultimate blessing to be a part of, we had a whole lot of fun. Now, obviously, we were committed and we were dedicated, or we wouldn't have won a national championship. But coaches and competitors alike loved to have fun. Our timekeeper on our team, when we would go to tournaments, and this included the national championship, would bring this like inflatable orange suit that he would put on, and it looked completely ridiculous. And he would put on this suit, and he would take laps up and down the hotel hallway, and we would all be losing it, laughing, and just having the greatest time, right? And I'm convinced, looking back now, that our ability to have fun amidst the rigor and the difficulty and the challenge that naturally comes with this activity, that's a big reason why we were able to win. It helped us be more loose during rounds. It helped our competitors not be quite so nervous when rounds began because they didn't quite feel the same amount of pressure that they might have felt had we not been having that much fun leading up to the rounds. 1 year later, the team that I coached was the complete opposite story. Because the team that I coached 1 year later, same school, that again, a few months before had won the ultimate prize, won a national championship, this team flamed out at regionals, the regional competition against like local high schools, most of whom didn't have a great clue of what they were doing. We flamed out. We lost. What was the difference between the national championship group and then just a few months later, or, less than a year later, flaming out at regionals? It was we didn't have any fun. That second group had no fun at all. No one was having fun that year. I remember it well. I was not having fun. The students were not having fun. No one was having fun. And that's why we didn't win. Now, sure, there were technical things that went wrong. There were crosses that could have been better, objections that could have been better, speeches that could have been better, sure. But we weren't having any fun, and it showed when tournament day arrived. So, if you're on a team right now, and everyone is very, very stiff and not loose, and the competitors are making themselves miserable and are extremely stressed leading up to a tournament, something's got to change if you want to win the ultimate prize, because national champions have fun with this. The team that I coach right now here in Tennessee, we wound up placing third at the state championship this year, so we didn't make it to nationals. We didn't get to where we wanted to go, but we had a lot of fun getting to where we got. And it makes the whole experience so much better, and it lends to success. I really firmly believe that. And so if you're struggling, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I just have a hard time letting loose and having fun with my teammates, well, part of that comes down to what we're talking about in number 1, and really all 4 of these character traits that we're going over today work together. They're all related. So if you have good relationships with each other, it's going to be a lot easier to have fun with each other, right? So that makes sense. And then also, the more prepared you are, the more you're going to be able to relax a little bit. Because I get it that if you're going into your first ever tournament and you've never done this before and you don't know what to expect, sure, that's very overwhelming. That can be really, really difficult and stressful. And so that's why the constant growth and improvement is so important, because it allows you to let loose a little bit. You're allowed to start thinking at that point, okay, I at least know what I'm doing to a certain extent. And then the more you do it and the more experience you get and the more tournaments you go to, the more comfort and confidence you'll be able to have. So as far as that stuff is concerned, I get that it can be difficult to loosen up and that this whole activity can easily be very, very stressful. But I don't want you to lose sight of the fact that you can, at a certain point, to a certain extent, make the decision to have some fun with all of this. Now, I got to admit, when I competed, I was horrible at this, especially in high school. I was uptight. I demanded way too much of myself and my teammates. And we did well. we placed third at nationals when I was in high school. But we didn't win the ultimate prize. And we didn't have a whole lot of fun. I was sort of a drill sergeant. And I regret that now. Because years later, as I look back at those days and I look at the teams that I've coached and the team that I coach right now, being able to have fun, being able to let loose a little bit is such a key element of having success in this activity, I promise you. So, I want to challenge you. If you're naturally like I was in high school, where you struggle to let loose, you're a little bit uptight, you're a little bit too by the book, take a deep breath, pull those shoulders back, and relax. It's going to be okay. I promise, because I've seen it done, that you can win the ultimate prize in mock trial, a national championship, high school or college, even if you have fun. In fact, it's a key, I think, to winning a national title. So, character trait number one that separates national champion competitor teams from, or caliber teams from those who aren't, is they're made up of great teammates. Number two, they're made up of mock trial masters who are committed to growth and improvement consistently over time. They have a whole lot of fun doing it. They're serious, they're committed, but they let loose. They pull those shoulders back and let themselves have a little bit of fun. And we're about to get into the fourth and final character trait. But before we do, I want to remind you that you can schedule coaching with me, whether that's one-on-one with me and you, one-on-two with me and you and one of your teammates, or I'd be happy to meet with you and your entire team. Whatever it is you want us to go over, I can help you get ready for nationals if that's the position you're in right now. I can run a summer program with you guys over Zoom where we can work on improving your skills in a specific area of mock trial. There's tons of ways that we can spend our time together, and I'd love to talk more with you about that. So if you're interested in scheduling coaching with me, whatever you would like to spend that time on, you can click the link in the description on YouTube or in the show notes on podcast platforms. Character trait number 4 that separates national champions from non-national champions is national champions play to win. This is the biggest one. This is the ultimate separator. If you go to a mock trial master competitor on a national championship team and you ask them, what are you hoping to get out of your mock trial experience? You know what they're not going to say? I'm hoping to build my resume to get into a good college. You know what else they're not going to say? Well, I want to be a lawyer one day, and this seems like pretty good practice. No, I'm not knocking the fact that mock trial looks good on your college resume. It helped me get a great scholarship at Belmont. And I'm not knocking the fact that if you want to be a lawyer one day, this is fabulous practice. But if you want to win a national championship, then you need to want to win a national championship more than anything else in this activity. Because when you ask a mock trial master who is a national caliber competitor, what's the number one thing you hope to get out of this activity? The number one thing you hope to accomplish in mock trial? The answer will be very clear. It'll be one, maybe two words. They're going to say, I want, this is more than one or two words. They're going to say, I want to win. I want to win. I want to win a state championship. I want to win a national championship. I want to have success with my team. I want to achieve the ultimate prize. I want to win a championship. That is the attitude that you must possess as a competitor if you want to succeed, but as a team, as a whole, if you want to win a national title. It is a non-negotiable. I've been on teams that had that attitude, and folks, those teams were really good, and they didn't all win the national championship. I've only done that once. But they were all pretty darn good. They all had success, and they all made it pretty far. And I've been on teams that didn't have that attitude, that a lot of people were just kind of doing it for their resume or to see if they liked being involved in law. And I'm not knocking that. If that's why you want to do this, that's fine. But you're not going to win if that's why you want to do this. And those teams that I was on didn't win. Very little success. The teams that weren't all out, fully committed to winning a championship. Now again, this is part of a recipe, right? We need all the ingredients. We need to have fun. We need to let loose. We need to put our shoulders down. But we've also got to remember what our goal is. Because if you want to win a national championship, if you're a competitor listening to this and thinking, what do I need to do? If you're a coach listening to this and thinking, what do I need to instill in my team? And you take one thing away from this time that we're spending together today, let it be this. If you want to have success, if you want to win a national championship, you have got to adopt a play-to-win mentality. There's no other option. I'm not saying you got to be completely dejected if you don't win. And please hear me. I feel the need to say it again. I'm not saying you can't have fun. In fact, 10 minutes ago I was telling you, you must have fun, right? Don't forget that. But you got to play to win. And you know what that sometimes means? Coaches who might be listening to this, that sometimes means that one of your team members who isn't performing in the way that they need to perform doesn't need to have a role. It might mean, students who are listening to this, that you get a smaller role than someone else who is at a farther ahead level than you. Now remember, you've got it within you to be the ultimate mock trial master. That hasn't gone away. But chances are, especially if you're on the early stages of your development and your growth, there are going to be competitors who are further along than you. And you've got to be okay with them having a bigger role than you. Because doesn't it make sense that if you want to win, then it's the best and most prepared competitors who need to have the biggest roles? Of course. You got to have a play-to-win mentality if you want to win. Because as with all four of these character traits, look, if you ditch one of them or two of them, you can still have success to some extent. I've seen teams win rounds and win smaller level tournaments that had like one or two of these at most. But you're not going to win a national title without all four. I promise you that. I've seen it. Again, like I talked about at the beginning, I've seen both sides of the coin. I've seen the teams that won, and I've seen the teams that didn't. And folks, these four things, being a great teammate, committing yourself to growth and improvement, having a good time, but most importantly, adopting that play-to-win mentality, those are the differences. So if you want to win a national championship, you got to ask yourself, do I have a play-to-win mentality? Am I willing to make some sacrifices? Am I willing to humble myself and say, you know what, maybe I don't need as big of a role right now because I'm early in my development. And coaches, if you're listening to this, if you've committed yourself to a play-to-win mentality, Maybe that means that you need to stand up straight and make a tough decision and have a difficult conversation and say, you know what, this student is outperforming this other student, so they need to have a bigger role, or this other student isn't putting in the work that's necessary, and so they have made the decision by not putting in that work to lose their role. That's what a play-to-win mentality looks like, and it is a requirement. I can't put that boldly enough. It's a requirement if you want to win a national championship. That's all I got for you today. Thank you for tuning in to the Mock Trial Masterclass Podcast. Next month, we will return to the guest format. Can't wait for you to meet who we're going to bring on next month. Again, a reminder, go pick up my new book, Mock Trial Masterclass. It's a championship plan that anyone can understand. You can pick it up on Amazon by clicking the link in the description on YouTube or the show notes on podcast platforms. Best of luck if you're heading to nationals. Can't wait to hear how it goes. I'm signing off. Have a great week, everyone.